Good morning, my name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here to look at the weekly energies for today's Monday's Musings. This is the second take that I've just recorded into this week's video because the first time round I needed to turn up the sound. I needed to be able to hear clearer in order to hear myself, I guess, and that really feels like a key this week. Our ability to listen is going to really have an impact on what it is, obviously, that we hear, but the very communication that we have with our own potential. So this morning I was walking my dog, and as I walked through the woods, on the left side of me, on the feminine side of me, there was a field full of cows roaming free. And on the right masculine side of me, there was a field full of cows behind a gate, behind a fence, restricted, if you will. Both cows, both sets of these sacred messengers called out. They had food, they had water, they were safe. They were both calling. And walking along the muddy track of the woods with my dog, I began to really feel into the earth, really feel into the waters everywhere at the moment, the emotions, not just physically but metaphorically as well. So outside my garden there's a bridge between the gardens and the road, and underneath the bridge there's a flow of water. Well, this morning that has broken. This morning the water is everywhere. It's in everybody's gardens. It's all over the road. And it really feels quite poignant that regardless of whether we feel free or restricted, this week we're going to hear and feel an inner calling of our own emotions. And that's going to affect what we grow. That's going to affect the very path that we're on. And it really doesn't feel as if it matters. Or rather, it's not going to be discerning between who it affects this week. So when I tuned into that with the daily guidance this morning, I could really sense an excitement, a quickening in the ground beneath me. I could feel a shift in the earth, and I'm not one to normally predict changes or predict full stop as an extent, because I do feel the empowerment of the tarot comes from what we do with the information rather than sitting back and feeling almost as if we have no choices. That really for me doesn't reflect the power of the tarot. But this morning I could really sense shifts in the earth and really sense changes. Now that could be volcanoes, that could be storms. It feels like mudslides, actually. That's what it feels like. It feels like a need to balance, to almost grip, to almost hold on. The other thing that I sensed this morning was the song Light Us Up from Little Kim, and it was really related to our own spirit and our own energy. But what I saw were many people holding vigil for changes that were occurring, for something that is going to occur in relation to the earth. And again, without the doom and gloom, without the prediction side of it, what I really felt underneath was the ability to connect to the very messages that are being given and reflected to us from the earth this week are key. The ability to really listen to the messages from Pachamama this week are key. So really taking time to feel into what you sense in your own environment. One, we know that it's a reflection of where we're at and what we're going through. So with the lighters up and the mudslides and the waters, what I really sensed was the separation between us and our own flow and potential now is no more. Whether we try and put that in as boundaries, whether we try and let go of any boundaries, what the emphasis is, the key is how we hold space for our own spirit, how we hold our own light. And that's really going to come to the forefront this week as we lead into the new moon. And when I really connect to that energy, that's when the clarity starts to come. So the vibration, the messages feel quite confused until I realise that it's the new moon that's going to be the turning point. So this morning I woke up having had the most incredible week last week with grief and anger, and I was very poorly, huge monumental physical and emotional and spiritual shifts and downloads last week. This morning I woke up and thought to myself, goodness, the first few weeks of 2023, and that's what it's like. It could very well be an intense year. And I had to stop myself. One, because that's almost like predicting what the rest of the year is going to be like based on where we're at. Okay, now the whole point of knowing where we're at is to be able to shift and change things. So again, coming back to the tarot, the whole point of doing a reading is to be able to prepare ourselves in the best way that we can. So the whole reason behind predicting anything is to say, okay, we need to be aware of da 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 da. So the messages today were very much to be aware of our own light as the hope when we are in the darkness, when things have changed, when we can't quite see a way forward, but also to find balance in the very structural changes that are happening in the earth and within our environment. And that can be moving home, that can be a change of home, that can be a change of workplace, a change of what it is we actually do. Remembering that the solid footing this year will come from our own ability. I wanted to say inability, but our own either or, right? Our own ability to connect to our own spiritual energy, our own faith, our own hope, our own belief in ourselves, our own light. So I've kind of strayed off track, and that feels quite key. Yes, the new moon. Okay, I've strayed off track a little bit. And what I was going to say was what I received this morning was, is it the first 2 weeks of 2023 or the last few weeks of 2022? And to be very aware at the moment, from now particularly into the new moon, anything that comes up is remnants. It's leftover trash, if you will, from 2022, just to witness it, just to observe it, just to become conscious of it. Okay, so with this new moon this weekend in Aquarius, we are talking the Fool. We are talking, the new journey, the new soul's path. In order for it to be new, I've said it a million times over, we need to release what was. This week, be very, very open to any information that may come through that is a surprise. Basically, expect the unexpected this week. Be open to whatever needs to come up in order for next week to start that new journey. Is there anything else to add on that? There's a lot of trickery energy there. There's a lot of flittery excitement energy, and it's all in how we see it. So it can be seen as fun, it can be seen as immature, it can be seen as ungrounded, it can be seen as free. It really doesn't matter. What matters is the calling inside. What is this energy that you're feeling, this emotional flow that you're feeling, calling inside? What does it yearn for? What do you want to bring forward from next week onwards? And that is where I feel the excitement. That is where I feel the hope. That is where I feel almost like the sky's the limit. Okay, and that can be quite daunting. I sense that this week that can really be quite daunting. I'm being reminded of the star card in the tarot and the analogy of it feeling quite far. Our dreams, our vision, what it is we're trying to achieve can really feel quite far away from us, in particular in the middle of January, right? I think the 17th is the lowest day of the year. Okay, so being aware of that, again, taking any information this week that we are given, that we receive, and really, really listening to what comes up, bringing it to consciousness and being aware of it, and anything that we may or may not do as a result of what it is we discover. So today I was speaking to a friend about healing, and how I was asked how I work, how I deal, how I cope with certain things that may come up for me. And it really depends on whatever it is that comes up, and it really depends on where I'm at. But the first stage of any healing is awareness. The first stage of any shift is consciousness, and for some aspects, particularly this week, that can be all that's needed. So really looking at, do we need to react? Why we feel we need to react, and what we're hoping to get if we do react, or can we just hold space for what is occurring? Can we just listen? So Mercury is about to go forward, I think around about the 17th or 18th of this month. I'm not an astrologer, but I think it's round about that time. And then I do think by the end of the month, or definitely by March, there's so many planets that are going in the right direction. And that again feels quite poignant. Come springtime, things are going to be shifting in the right direction. And anything that comes up from now until then is just to re-navigate the flow, to get us in alignment with that. Is there anything else? Yes, with Mercury going forward, we can naturally assume that, yeah, communication's about to get better and technology's about to get better and, you know, the roads are going to be smoother. Communication comes in many forms, right? And only a very small percentage of that is variable. So really, really, really looking out for the many, many ways things are being reflected back to you, your body is communicating to you, your loved ones are conversing with you, really looking at the dialect now that is occurring and opening our ears, opening our eyes, then opening our voice. Okay, so is there anything else? The cards that I'm going to work with, I was really undecided. I was going to work with the Runic Tarot, but I felt they were a bit harsh. I was going to work with the Light Seers Tarot because I feel they really apply to life in their illustrations. They're very very real. They remind me of people, so that felt quite poignant. But the deck I'm actually going to work with are the Dreams of Gaia Tarot. And they're by Raven Felon, I think. Now the reason I'm going to work with them is because Gaia is relevant to me. Pachamama is relevant to me. I read the cards for pictures and to open my subconscious and as a universal language to connect to other people. However, personally, it is the very voice of Pachamama that gives me many, many signs, many, many synchronicities and much, much guidance on a walk, right? Just on a walk or, you know, looking out for things. So this week in particular, it feels quite relevant to find what resonates with you, what language resonates with you. So for me, it is the earth and the dreams of the earth and what wouldn't I do for the earth. But really finding what it is that calls you. Okay, what voice speaks to you, and really connecting to that this week as your guidance. Okay, so I'm going to have a quick drink of my tea. And looking at how you connect to that, because that almost feels like the energy that will be taking us through this new moon. So I really connect to the earth in everyday aspects of my life. You know, my whole existence sometimes feels like messages, and that is how I connect. Really using that this week is going to help me move through the almost crazy energy of, I think it's Uranus is doing something this weekend as well, and I know that that has quite a prominent place in my chart. So maybe looking that up this week or not, depending on whether or not it relates to you, whether or not it resonates with you, where Uranus may be in your chart. Maybe, just maybe, there are some new beginnings around that. So I'm going to take my own medicine and look at that later. But yes, just feeling what sparks an interest in you this week, and you may not know why, and kind of realizing that we don't need to know why. It's a spark, right? A spark is the beginning of creation. We can destroy many dreams and many ideas and even the star vision itself by thinking or over analyzing or over complicating things. So today, one of the things I did share with a dear sister of mine, I've been working with Freud the last few weeks for college work in regards to counselling and psychology, and you know, his recognition of defense mechanisms that we use, including rationalization and intellectualizing things, you know, over explaining things. This week it feels really poignant to recognize that energy within us. Things can happen and we hold space for it. Every time we explain something, it's kind of like, why are we having to explain that? Why do we feel the need to explain that? Okay, so I remember having an episode where I apologized to my husband, and rather than explain why I was sorry, I just said sorry, and the difference in the communication was quite profound. So really looking at that this week, actually listening, not finding reason for something, and acting as we feel fit, which is the last thing I want to share. So as we feel fit, okay, so the card at the bottom is all about perception. As we feel fit, if we can hold space, if we can remain balanced in our own emotions, if we can take responsibility, regardless of what is occurring around us, we have that solid vessel to move forward. We have that faith, that hope, that belief. We have that trust in ourselves this week, and that feels really poignant. So really looking at what may be reflected back to us and just how much we trust what it is we're receiving and the messages within it. Okay. And I hear that a lot of the trust comes from maybe not liking the messages this week. Taking it one step higher and observing them is going to help with that. Okay, so energies this week and how to best navigate them. So when I connect to the cards, I'm feeling obviously the dreams of Gaia, and in my mind I'm, Gaia, what would be the dreams for us as your children? And how to best navigate them would be one of the dreams, how to make the most of life itself this week. That's what I really feel. We have the Three of Wands at the bottom of the pack, really knowing that the only way to move forward is to make the most of what we have, to enjoy life to the fullest, and to shift anything that stands in the way of that now. Okay, so, and I'm being drawn to almost a picture of an eye on the wall in front of me, and it's our perception. Really, really, really is our perception this week that stands in the way of how we view and thus enjoy life. Thus. Okay. Energies this week. Crazy energies, guys. Crazy, crazy energies. Okay, how to best navigate them. It's just like the biggest unknown vibration I've ever felt. I just feel like nothing is ever going to be the same after this weekend. We have the Maiden, which is the High Priestess, and the Nine of Wands here. Okay. Energies this week. I felt like I'd just, disappeared then. Just really, there's a lot of illusion to be walked through this week. In regards to our own trauma, in regards to the trauma we may be causing ourselves from keeping certain stories going. Okay. And then looking at the reasons why we may do that this week. All comes back to self-worth, right? All comes back to the love that we have for ourselves. Okay. Energies this week and how to best navigate them. Right. So I have the Ten of Wands, and I got the Ten of Wands at the bottom of the pack, just as I thought, you know what, that's enough shuffling, that's enough trying to figure it out. I'm just going to see what's in front of us and take it from there. Because it does feel like that this week. It does feel like we could almost get a snippet into the potential of the whole bloody year this week. And it's like, whoa, don't let that stop us. Don't let that stop us doing what needs to be done in each moment, because that's the Ten of Wands here. So yes, we could feel downloads of energy or emotions that are, by the end of this year, I say by the end of this week, nothing's going to be the same. By the end of this year, guys, you are not going to recognize yourself. And we're going to be aware of that this week with the first few steps that we take towards that journey. But it is remembering we can have awareness of everything, but consciousness of what is in front of us is really, really, really important this week, in order not to avoid, but to embrace the more lighter aspect of the Ten of Wands. So the Ten of Wands is the end game, right? It's the end of taking on what isn't ours. It's the end of carrying too much. It's the end of everything that needs to be shifted is now being shifted. So massive transformations this week, huge transformations this week. But that comes, obviously, you can see the hammer and the chisel, that comes in the actions that we take this week. So in order to avoid it all being a bit too much, that star vision again, oh my goodness, everything I want is so far away. What can I do now? Little bits, because it's almost, I feel as if we're not going to be able to walk away from our potential this year. We're going to be constantly redirected, pulled back into it. So we can't get away from it. What we're here to do. And this year in particular, we're going to be navigated towards that. So little steps, little bits, okay? Not letting the fear and the doubt of who we are stand in the way of what it is we're trying to achieve. Okay, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, overall, oh wow, oh wow, there's just so many faces in front of me. I see so many eyes watching. I see so many views, so many perceptions here, which is very much related to the Ten of Wands. So this week, you know, if we're unsure, going within and knowing that the decisions can only be made by us, going within and feeling into what is occurring, going within and really looking at what is being reflected back to us, because I almost sense like the more we try and seek information this week, the more we're just going to have different views and different versions and end up quite confused from it all. You know, the Fool card, as we go into the weekend, the Fool card, very much looking at what we carry. It's time to be conscious of what we carry, even the opinions and perspectives of others. Okay, so it doesn't feel like the dark night of the soul. I can feel it in my solar plexus and in my uterus, but it may mentally seem as if it's that kind of energy, but actually it really, really isn't. It's a great opportunity to shift through any stagnant beliefs within us this week, by almost putting ourselves into the dark night of the soul, by almost choosing to journey to the underworld, by almost taking all of these wounds, all of this trauma, all of this healing that needs to occur and going within with it. Transition, that's what I really feel. You know, the bridge breaking, the waters breaking, the shift, the old year, the new year, all together, transition. Now in transition, nothing is needed. No new change, no new steps, no hanging on to the old, but the very courage to be in that moment and support ourselves in that. Now, by all means, picking people that can help hold space for that, but ensuring that you feel comfortable, safe, protected and loved this week feels like key. So overall, the energy that we have is the crone. Now, this is depicted as number 6 in the card, in the deck. So we could link this to the lovers, to the need for choice here. But for me, the crone is the energy that's coming in. So I saw a post by Davina McCall today about the stillness of menopause and the changes that occur and how we naturally assume that we're losing things. We're losing our drive, we're losing our youth, we're losing our patience, we're losing all these things. But actually, when we step into the crone, what happens is the energy slows down. Now, you don't need a womb to have that energy. You don't need to go through those stages physically to step into that energy. You don't need chaos in order to go within. And that really feels like key this week. We don't need the tower in order to reach the stars anymore. Okay, so maybe looking at that being the foundation, maybe looking at the very fact that we believe we need monumental destruction almost in order to change our vision, in order to be held. You know, this morning I really felt impatience and urgency, wanting to get everything done, and I went into sacred space with that, and that was purely because I wanted to be in the stillness and the nurture. There was an old pattern going on in my psyche about having to earn, having to work for the love that I wanted to feel. Really looking at any old patterns this week, really taking them into a place where they could be held, nurtured, seen, brought to the consciousness, loved for the lessons that they've brought, and allowing them to be placed back into the light. So when we become aware of something, when we recognize a truth of something, what we're doing is going through the emotional process of allowing that to return to what it has always been. Excuse me. And that really feels like key this week, to take time to honor that sacredness within us before we rush into any decisions, to allow any decisions to come from that space. So on the Monday, we have the King of Fire. And all I see here is flames and eyes. Flames and eyes. And obviously the lion at the bottom. I said lying, you know, really today on the Monday, transmuting through anything that we see as our own truth. Transmuting anything that isn't relevant. It's not to say that it's a lie. It's not to say that it's an illusion. It's not to, you know, truth is such a vast thing. What matters today, particularly on the Mondays, is it relevant? This reading including included. Including and included. Anyway, this reading in particular as well, is it relevant to you and where it is you are going? Does it give you drive, ambition? Does it make you want to connect to what it is you're trying to achieve on the Monday in particular? If not, it's just not relevant. It's not that it's a lie. It's not that it's an illusion. You can call it whatever name you want. It's just not relevant to your journey or your soul's path at the moment. So on the Tuesday, I know that this is an earth card. I can see that this is a feminine card. There's a dog. There's loyalty here in her throat, in her voice. I think it's the Knight of Pentacles. The deck are completely different from the normal tarot deck, which is what I love, because the structure is there vaguely in the background, but what's more important is what I actually see. And what I actually see on the Tuesday are acorns, I see coins, I see keys hanging from this individual's ears. You know, the grounding, the abundance, the growth comes from listening. It comes from listening this week and being loyal in the very words that we express, being loyal in the communication that we have with ourselves and with each other. Okay, so we can, you know, this morning I really felt the desire to go into stillness, and I'm aware I have a lot to do today, but it's about being loyal to what has been spoken to me and what I'm now sharing, and putting time aside this afternoon to do just that. Okay. Belief and faith and hope in ourselves comes through our actions. So if we're saying one thing and we're doing something completely different, we're going to feel ungrounded. We're going to feel not false, but wobbly, right? We're not going to feel strong in what it is we're trying to achieve, because we're not doing what we said we were going to do. And, you know, we're going to have that reflected this week, but listening, really listening to why that's being reflected. What is being reflected back to me here? Because that is where the growth can occur on the Tuesday. On the Wednesday, we have the Ace of Air. Now, I know this energy. I don't know why I know this energy, but I just know this energy. And it's portrayed in a dragon, actually, which is really interesting for me. And I love the fact here that the sword is in the third eye. The sword is in the third eye, and that's all I want to focus on, even though we have those beautiful gazing steel blue eyes, and we have that wonderful symbol in the heart, in the throat, in the higher heart. That's what I feel, in the higher heart energy this week. What I'm being drawn to is the connection to the third eye, and knowing that energy, knowing our perception, knowing what it is we are envisioning, knowing what it is we see, knowing what it is we predict, based on our actions, based on the world that we are creating, the reality that we are creating. There's a big shift with that this Wednesday in particular. And it's almost as if a gift from the higher heart is being given here, a gift of trust, of belief, and of hope. And then on the Thursday, we move forward onto the Two of Pentacles. Okay, so we have that initial spark that comes through, and then we have the necessary balance. And this character is juggling what looks like Easter eggs. So it does feel like from now until Easter in particular, really rebalancing what it is we are impregnating ourselves with, what it is we are conceiving, you know, the very ideas we want to try and bring forward from now until Easter, really balancing them out in our actions. Okay, she's carrying a medicine pouch here around her sacral, around her belt, knowing that it is the balance of what we say and what we do. It is the balance of what we give and what we receive. It is Aini itself that is the medicine that is so often needed for the world, but in particular with everything that we create. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then on the Friday, we have Union. Now in this deck, it's the card 13. Okay, so in the normal tarot deck, it would be Death. I want to bring that to the forefront. I want to bring that consciousness forward, because it is only when we recognize and respect the very process of death that we have the union of new beginnings. It is only when we can really respect and hold space for endings that we can bring in what it is we are trying to achieve here. We cannot embrace change if we are going to continually fear. death. Okay, so that feels like key. The union of transformation here comes from within. And what I see is the butterfly linked to the root chakra. Real physical changes needed to be put into place, which is going to be difficult, or one would assume it could be difficult this week, because we do have, like I say, the new moon at the weekend in Aquarius, which we can link to the Fool. So very air-like energy, grounding that. Okay, if we go back to the Ace of Swords here, that third eye, that higher mental energy being grounded, balanced on the Thursday in our actions, having that sacred union within us is what's going to shift physically, monumentally actually, in our root chakra, our beliefs around abundance, our beliefs around our own physical presence, our beliefs around our own connection to the earth. Again, I feel that energy of unexpectedness. I feel that energy of, I'm going to say it, shock, something really shaking our foundations here, but almost being necessary for us to realize how rooted we are, how grounded we are, how much we have shifted, how much we have changed, and perhaps how much is to come as we go through the year. We cannot become a newer version, more evolved version of ourselves if we are going to continue to carry the old version behind us. Okay, so again, it's that Fool analogy, looking at what is in our bag. Yes, the Fool card is unconscious of what he carries, but actually taking that, maturing as the Fool, and being aware that we do carry things, and being aware of what it is we carry this weekend that is going to make the real difference. Because on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, which I think is when the new moon actually is, we have the child. Now in this deck, I always attribute the child to the Fool. Just absolutely beautiful, that energy. All I can see is light, which is just so gorgeous. In the card, we have a hummingbird feeding from a daisy. Now, daisies are, we build daisy chains, right? They are the chain of love. They are the chain reaction that we wear of love. And daisies, we pick the petals. They love me not. It helps us to make decisions. What I'm seeing here is to feed from the love needed to help us make the decisions in the unknown, because the hummingbird is the unknown. I do see the child here. I see white roses, but I also see lilac roses. So yes, a big week of transformation, but a need to keep it light and pure. Rather than it be the violet flame energy, the lilac energy. So bringing in that white purity, bringing in that pink love this week is really going to make a difference. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but this little child here is on one small little plinth. There's nothing else supporting this energy. Nothing else supporting this energy, but there's no fear there. There's joy there. There's support and security there. So it may feel as if, the very rug has been taken from underneath us. It may feel as if we don't have enough of the path in front of us. We don't know exactly how we're going to get somewhere or what's going to come in to help us, and we might want more reassurance. But really connecting to the inner child Saturday, and why we need that reassurance of the whole path before us before we take that step, and just really nurturing that energy, just really holding space and giving love to that child within us. Because on the Sunday we do have the youth. Now in this deck, again, this is depicted number 3, which I would contribute to the Empress, but in this deck, it just looks like a more advanced, more evolved version of the Fool, a mixture of the Magician and the Hermit, with the Wolf and that inner calling and that need to go in within to our wild, and the Strength card there as well, but also the Fool, the journey, the cliffs, the mountains, and the number of the Empress. So by the Sunday, what I really feel is a real supportive energy of an inner wisdom. And you can see here that the staff is connected to the stars. An inner wisdom, our higher vision guiding us forward, our need to go within, to know that our wild energy is what is going to get us over these mountains, not to fight that, not to have resistance with that, not to even feel as if we need to prove a point with that, but just to connect to the knowing that we've always been on this path. The knowing that we do actually understand where we're going, and that in each step we are being directed and driven towards that potential. Really, really, really appreciating our own connection to the earth this week. That's what I really sense. Okay, So overall, we have 1, 2, 2 wand cards. So beautiful balance there of our own divine spirit and our own ambitions and drive here. Owning that is going to be key this week. Really connecting to a higher energy available in regards to what we are capable of this week is going to really help in those times where it might feel like it's a bit too much. We then have 1, 2 pentacle cards. Again, beautiful physical balance here. And that comes from the feminine. That's what I sense. It comes from the feminine. Really, really balancing out what it is we listen to, what it is we speak, what it is we do, how loyal we are to our own actions, to our own needs this week is going to be the key. And then we have 1 sword card, which is the Ace of Swords, that higher mental ability, that higher mental energy. You know, it's one thing to rationalize and figure out what is going on, another to see all different angles, and then another as we go up higher to realize that they all come from the one energy anyway, and figuring out what that one energy is for you. So we can take a situation and say that happened because of take it up to the next stage and I learned take it up to the next stage and I healed taking it up to the following stage. What has it done? It's brought me back to the one essence of my own divine connection, and that's going to be different for everybody, but really finding that this week in every moment, really flipping on the switch to the higher self if you can this week in each situation. So taking that spiritual energy, that drive, that ambition, and honing it in, expanding, knowing that it's not too much for us, taking our physical actions and grounding them in bit by bit, physically achieving what we can in each step, and then mentally always higher perspective this week. Because we don't actually have any water cards, which is really interesting because it does feel like a really watery week, but it's more about the impact our thoughts and our drive and our ambition and our actions have on our emotions. It almost feels like the following week is going to be the water card week, if you will, because the rest of the images we have here are all major arcanas. So we have an ability to unite with the inner child and reconnect to the youthful energy of the crone. Now the crone, stillness isn't about stopping. We don't have to meditate and switch off the world in order to connect to the inner void. Okay, you're going to hear this in the next year or so. There's going to be a big movement into the void, into the darkness, into the deep feminine in order to create. And it's going to be a new way of creating, which is going to bring up so much remembrance for people, because it's the one thing that is going to unite the healing modalities and the readings and it's the voice of the earth that we're all going to hear. And that doesn't mean that we have to switch off from the world in order to connect to that energy. In fact, it's the opposite. It is about really listening to the voice of the earth this week, really going into the joyful link. And I just want to find a different word for connection this week. But there isn't one. It is all about connecting this week. It is all about connecting our drive, our physical actions and our mindset to what it is we are trying to achieve. And it is all about union and connecting to our inner child and the youthful energy that is available within the crone. The crone has been long depicted as aging, as dying, as the very thing that we want to avoid, as being ill, as being a space of lack, just like stillness has been not doing enough, or you won't be able to achieve things, just like death has been the very thing that we try and avoid. And actually all those aspects this week in a more light-hearted way is going to bring the very shifts and changes that we are requiring. They're all the feminine. And for a very long time, the feminine has been repressed in the ways that we are aware of, but also our own subconscious ways of not slowing down, of trying to fight the inevitable, of clinging on to the past, of believing that if things aren't constant, then we're lacking somehow. This week, there's a whole brand new perspective that is coming to put things into a necessary priority, you know, an almost a need, a yearning to embrace that crone energy more in order to really reunite to the light that we are. Without the darkness, right? Without the darkness, you do not see the light. They are one and the same. I years ago did a journey to the Dark Goddess for many people, and it's something I'll be doing again, I should imagine, this year. And many of us are in the darkness without realizing. We believe we've come back out. We believe we've learned everything that we need to learn, and yet we continue to learn the same aspects over and over and over because we haven't actually come back out, because we haven't actually seen and embraced and become the darkness, the crone. This week, finding time to do that. This week, finding new ways to do that without trauma, without pain, without extreme circumstances making us step back and go, oh, I need time. Finding fun ways to do that so that we can change the perspective of what we see of the void and the crone and the darkness and death itself. Because until we do that, nothing is going to change. We are going to avoid it, and we are going to fight the very shifts that the whole of 2023 is going to be about. Take care. Have a shall I pull one for the rest of the week? 10 of Cups. We have that cup. We have that cup card. What's underneath? 5, 6, 7, 8 of Swords here. Okay. So we have the cup card. Okay, and underneath we do have the 8 of Swords, and under that we have healing. And it does feel like mentally, if we continue to over analyze and continually try and think about what we feel rather than feel it this week, then we're going to be very aware of the healing that's needed. Okay, but we cannot avoid it this week because it's all leading us to that 10 of Cups. It's all leading us to that overflowing water that is now necessary, those emotions that we need to feel, that is now necessary to break the bridge between the growth that has occurred and the natural progression waiting. Take care. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.